Welcome to Base and Boundaries podcast. I'm your host, Amy G, and this is your one-stop shop for all things mental health and music.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Base and Boundaries. Imposter syndrome is the topic today. Imposter syndrome. And it's something that I have been dealing with over, I think my entire life. And today's video is going to reflect on that. And I'm going to share some experiences about imposter syndrome and that actually some things that we do think are not true. And I wanted to start with a story because a lot of the time we have this, especially if you're neurodivergent or you've had, you have got mental health concerns, and you might have a little feeling where you go, this person doesn't like me, or they might not like you, but whatever, but then you feel like everybody that is associated with them doesn't like you either. And I'm here to tell you that that's not necessarily the case, because I am a prime example of what happens when you actually speak to people. So there is somebody that was in my life at one point, and we were very good friends and we got on very, very well. And then that individual gravitated towards a new group of people who did not like me. And then slowly but surely, she started to hate me. And then basically this was a group of women that had turned on me. And as a result of that, I became very withdrawn. I became very isolated, depressed. I would cry. Before I left the house, I'd be scared of seeing them. And then when I did used to bump into these people, I'd be like, and I spoke up. And I wanted to say to you that it was the best thing that could have happened, but it wasn't. It was actually one of the worst things that could have happened by me speaking up. And that's awful thing for me as a qualified coach to say that. Well, actually it was probably one of the worst things I did, because it did get worse. However, it did have a happy ending. I'm going to tell you why. There was an individual that I thought didn't like me out of that circle. And I approached them. And I said, if you've got an issue with me, I would rather you say it to my face and not through everybody else. And she was like, I don't have a problem with you. Never did. And we got chatting, and some things that had been said about me were completely blown out of proportion. Because at that time I had imposter syndrome. I thought everybody hated me. I'm an imposter. I'm a fake. I'm a fraud. People aren't going to like me. How can I, and also going forward, how can I make a business? I'm useless. I'm worthless. And I had it yesterday too. I went to a networking event, and I pulled up in the car park, and people I used to work with were there. And I was like, I've got to go network with people, knowing there's people in there that already know what I do, and that's fine. But I'm scared. So I got out of my car and I went, no one is better than me, and I'm not better than anybody else. And that's something that I have carried through my life. I'm not better than anybody else. You're not better than anybody else. But what we do is we chin up, shoulders back, go in and talk, and it was fine. But that nervousness, I went to Derby Expo a couple of weeks ago. Same situation. I'm looking at business owners with 6-figure salaries going in with their posh cars and their suave suits and their attitude. And there's me in, my mid-range car with my Amazon handbag, feeling like I'm not enough and that I'm not doing enough. And you do get imposter syndrome. But I want to read you some comments that people have said to me over the last few days. Number one, you don't give yourself enough credit for what you do. And that one got me. Another one, you'd be so good at this particular role. I'm rooting for you. And so people do look at you from afar or a distance and go, I'm rooting for that person. They don't have to outwardly say it, but it's not until you actually speak to that individual. They go, I've been rooting for you the whole time. So imposter syndrome. I'm going to read you some of my notes about imposter syndrome, because it is, it's where we doubt everything. Self-doubt is such a killer of so many things, our business ideas. What does imposter syndrome feel like? It makes you feel like you're manifesting a lack of. You're manifesting a darker reality because of your lack of self-belief. And I'm here to tell you today that you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that because you are enough and you are worthy. So as a coach, I allow people to explore that with me. So we look at things like, why do we have imposter syndrome? Why do we feel anxious? Remember what I said in previous episodes about the emotional wheel. What are the real reasons that you're feeling the way that you're feeling? So when you have that sort of knowledge, that idea, you kind of go with it and you go, I'm going to go and do the things that I said that I can't do. You eventually, it just clicks. Imposter syndrome then becomes no more. I teach you how to do that. And I teach it because it is crucial. The key to your success is not through somebody else, it's through you. So you need to be able to think for yourself. You need to be able to trust your own judgment. I can do that now, but I never used to be able to. I used to doubt myself all the time. But the biggest key, I said this on an interview yesterday while I was networking, one of the biggest factors of being self-aware, being able to do these things that you set your mind to, is being around decent people. You would not believe it. What a difference. I will put my hand up now and tell you, I am currently around people that do not want the best for me. But I don't listen to them. I never do. I do not listen to them because they do not want the best for me. So I take a step back from these people. I create boundaries and they notice. I think a lot of the time, I know the word narcissist is thrown around a lot, but when you have narcissistic people around you, especially if you are, you're hypersensitive or you have the ability to have, those feelings, that strong intuition about how people are and what they act like and what they decide to do and how they decide to be around you. When you have that strong inner self-worth that you can identify when someone maybe is a narcissist or has those tendencies, you don't listen to them anymore. You don't. And when you do that, it is therapeutic. It is the best feeling. And I'll tell you for why. Because those feelings that you have are the reason that you become a stronger person. So those feelings about that person, we're going to give it a prime example. So this is Bob and this is Sally. So Bob is narcissistic by trait, may not necessarily be diagnosed. So we'll because again, I'm not a therapist, I can't make that assumption, but we're going to say this, the symptoms, the traits. And then you've got Sally, who is hypersensitive, always doubts herself, has imposter syndrome. And then you've got Bob and Sally. Bob is going, so Sally wants to open a business, a cleaning business. And Sally approaches Bob, is her husband, approaches Bob and says, I'm going to open a cleaning business. And he goes, absolutely not. What happens if X, Y, and Z happens? What happens if, say, for argument's sake, you break a vase? What's going to happen then if you break said vase? What's going to happen, ain't? And this is the thing. Sally's then going to go, I don't have the support that I need to thrive doing this cleaning business. So Sally has a choice. She can listen to Bob or she can set a boundary. And this boundary is, I appreciate your concern, but I'm still doing it anyway. And then what's going to happen? Bob's going to get cross. Bob's going to get a bit paid off because Sally is not being controlled and the narrative is not Bob's narrative. It belongs to Sally. Yeah. So Sally then goes, the other option is I go and do it anyway. I go and do it. So Sally does it or she listens to Bob. What would you do? If you had a partner, a husband, a wife, and you had this amazing business idea, and then they turn around and say, well, I think you're stupid doing that. What would you do in that moment? I'd be very interested to know, because I used to be the person that would listen to everybody else. And that's why I became a coach, because I coach men and women to think for themselves, to have those boundaries, to be able to think freely without any judgment, to be able to sit there and film a podcast if they want to, because you would be surprised how many people did not want me to do this. And I still did it anyway, because I work for me. I live for me and my kids. I don't live for anybody else. And I tell you for why, because I've been called hyper independent for many years. But when I have been through unnecessary trauma, and I'll do a whole video about trauma if you want, when I've gone through that stuff, and I decide people like listening to me. People want to listen to me. Actually, I go back and do and finish what I started 10 years ago. And that for me is powerful, because I have had many people in my life that do not want me to do these things. They do not want me to have a voice. So I shout anyway. And this goes into so many things with imposter syndrome, because imposter syndrome typically comes from something like trauma, like anxiety, because we are conditioned to believe that what we are doing is not good enough by the people that are supposed to care about us. Now, that's not everybody. Of course, it's not. You might actually find that you've got people in your life that are so supportive, that are so nurturing, that are so caring. And some of us don't know what that feels like. And I want you to sit with it and go, so this is a little exercise for you today, because I love doing these exercises. I think they're very helpful and therapeutic. Get a pros and a cons list, perhaps, of people that are good for you, that are supportive, that make you feel incredible. And then the people that don't. And I can tell you definitively right now, there are 3 people in my life that no matter what I decide to do, they will support me, and they're my 3 best friends. Kirsty, Charlie, and Sarah. Because I could tell them I'm doing the worst thing imaginable, and they go, be safe. Like, but no, they wouldn't. They would intervene. But if I decided to, argument's sake, I haven't flown on a plane for 15 years. And in August, I'm going to Denmark to go and stay with a friend for 2 days. And I'm so excited. But I'm very nervous. I'm checking in with my body right now. When I mention a plane, my stomach starts going funny. I get butterflies. My heart rate's now getting faster. I'm noticing changes. I'm starting to get a bit of a dry mouth because I'm frightened. But if I don't do it, I never will. I need to immerse myself. So what am I doing? I'm falling asleep listening to aeroplane white noise. I am watching documentaries about how safe planes are. And I'm aware plane crashes happen. I know that. But it's safer than driving a car. The way that, I drove an hour here today, and the amount of lovely people on the roads, fabulous. But what I'm saying is, if I don't do it, I never will. And when I quit my job a week ago, I said, if I don't do it now, I never will. Because I want to be able to do those things that I have promised myself for years I was going to do and never did due to other people. And I'm telling you these stories today, not to just bleat on about myself, but to give you the knowledge that the person that's teaching, the person that is a coach, the person that quit her job to do this has reasons. And those reasons are, I had imposter syndrome for a long, long time due to other people, due to how I was made to feel about myself, because at one point I had more people in my life that did not want the best for me than those that did. So what I'm saying today is this: you need to figure out who you need to create boundaries with. Is that family? Is it a partner? Because you would be surprised. You can look at your friendship circles, your work circles. But Amy, I hate my job. I want to quit my job. You want to ask yourself why. If I had a client sat in front of me right now, Amy, I want to quit my job. Okay, let's make a plan to do that then. And they're like, oh, really? I thought you was just going to listen to my problems. No, I will listen, actively listen and deeply listen too. But what I'm going to say to you is this. We're going to get you out that job. And we make a plan. And then I'll go into great depth about how that person's going to achieve that. But you do the work. I'm there to be your cheerleader. And that's something that a lot of people don't have. And that's why I trained to be a life coach. I actually got one of my final assessments back today and I passed it 100%. I am over the moon with that. And it's also everyone that doubted me, it didn't have a long-term effect, and I'm glad it didn't. And I want to do the same for everybody else, because I know there are people out there like me that have had these events happen to them where they've created imposter syndrome. Their brain has created this I'm not good enough persona based on the reality of what somebody else thinks. But you are enough and you are good enough. And I still doubt myself. I'm not going to say that I don't. I doubted myself before I got out the car yesterday. I called my best friend. I need to get out the car. I need to go into this, but I'm scared. And she went, why are you scared? Go knock them. No, go knock them out. Not literally, but, and I did. Then I created some amazing contacts yesterday. But if I hadn't, those opportunities would never have come my way. So sometimes we have to be uncomfortable. Sometimes we have to be uncomfortable to be able to push ourselves into situations that will end up being the best thing that ever happens to us. But do not mistake it for your gut feeling. I have a very strong intuition. Yesterday, before I left the house, I changed my outfit 3 times. That's not like me at all. I usually chuck something on and go. It doesn't bother me. But I was worrying. I felt sick before I left the house. My best friend was like, you okay? I was like, I don't feel very well. And I couldn't explain it. Like, I just felt shaky. And then I realized why. And I was like, no, it's okay. It's okay. And then I got interviewed for someone else's podcast. And then I met with somebody that is going to do me a marketing package that's going to help me ascend to better things. My long-term goals are slowly but surely getting there. And so, with that being said, I want to help you do the same thing. So, what I will say to you today is this. Remember that your worth is not accounted for by somebody else. It's what you hold very dear to you. You are your own reason for doing the things that you do, not somebody else. And if somebody else is controlling that narrative, it's time to set boundaries. And I can help you achieve that. But if not, I want you to take away something today. Your homework for the week, you need to write down the people that are the most supportive in your life, the people that really are there for you, and the people that are not so there. And how could you apply boundaries? I think you can do it. I know you can do it. But if you can't, get in touch and I can help you achieve that. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I don't even know what day it is. I think we've just had so much heat on at the moment. I'm just all over the place, but I just wanted to say today, thank you to each and every one of you that watches on YouTube, that listens on Spotify. I am so grateful for you. Here's to bigger and better things. And I'm so grateful to take you with me on this journey. Okay, guys, take care and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for listening, guys. You can find my podcast every Tuesday and Thursday. And don't forget to follow me on all social media platforms. See you next time.